Well, we're offloading some water right now, but I wanted to test something, and that is this really small battery, to see if this little 10 amp battery is strong enough to run the water pump. And let's take a look. As you can see, that small little battery is plenty of power to run the water pump. So that is such a good feeling. Look at that flow. That is fantastic. I'm really happy to know that even the small battery will run that water pump. What a good feeling. We have thinned out the paint and it is spraying a lot better. I'll talk a little more later about this marquee paint and the secret to getting it to spray. So let's go ahead and get started on this south wall. Well, we got some of the south wall done. We're unfortunately having to go hide for a little bit. There's raindrops coming, so we're gonna stop for now, let the rain pass, and then we'll get back to painting. Right now it's very light, but off here towards the east, it's pretty dark. So unfortunate, because we want to continue, but it is what it is. If you try to run this paint just by itself, you can see it's really rubbery kind of looking paint, and it's too thick just the way you get it from Home Depot to run through this sprayer. So what we've done is we've thinned it out with some filtered water. This is just a 5-ounce tuna can. We're putting 5 ounces of water per gallon, and this ratio has been perfect for us to run this paint through this spray gun. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this up, and then we'll be back in business painting. You know, I thought it was going to rain. It had some light drops and we stopped, and then it quit as soon as we stopped. Funny how that stuff works. What I've noticed happens with the gun, with the paint sprayer, is the paint thickens, and when it's thick, it just plugs the paint gun up. It doesn't want to do nothing. So this mixture of water gives it the perfect viscosity to run through the paint sprayer. But that's really our secret for getting this thing to spray well, is thinning it out. Works really good. I wish I would have known this trick a long time ago, because I've been using this marquee paint for years, and this is the first time I've seen anything about thinning it out. Okay, so we've got the first coat done. There's a couple little spots that I think we need touched up on, and we decided to paint the underside of all the metal, and it looks pretty nice. So for the most part, we have all the painting done. This still has paint drying and wet and stuff like that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the north end. This end of the house was the hardest because it's the highest. So there's a look at that. I think it turned out really nice. Now let's take a look at the west side of the building. See what we got here. There's the west side. Looks really nice. Again, the same thing applies here. We focus pretty hard on getting underneath all these gables and getting up underneath the metal. I didn't like that white color, and this just kind of ties the colors all together real nice. It looks really good. Now, I was very much frustrated with the paint sprayer. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you guys noticed it during the time warp when the paint sprayer, Jean was like painting circles around me because the paint sprayer, it starts working really good and then it'll decide, well, I don't think I'm wanting to work as good anymore. It's like the paint gets thicker and then it decides that it's gonna kind of give me fits. It still sprays paint, but it's just very little amount. And it's frustrating because you're carrying this weight above your head with this paint, and for it to not be performing the way it should, it's very frustrating. I got overspray in my beard, I got overspray in my hat, I have it on my sunglasses, all over my hands. Jean too, she's got overspray. But it's a good feeling to be done for now. This property has more humidity than down the hill. So even though it's cooler temperature wise, it's more humid. So with this house with no airflow, it gets warm in here. But this is kind of a safe place to hang out because the gnats don't come at you. My chigger bites are doing better. We keep them clean and I'm not getting any new chigger bites, so that's good. But oh my gosh, what a cool feeling. Take a look at the upper part here. Look at the loft. I know I showed that earlier, but here's another look at it from underneath. That is just too cool. But that's about all we have for you right now. On this update, the painting is done. This marquee paint is fantastic, but it's just kind of a booger to work with, to be completely honest with you. In fact, I was reading a forum and there was a guy that said, I'm using Behr paint and I feel like offing myself. This is pretty funny. And marquee is made by Behr. I don't know if you noticed. Let's take a look. So yeah, Behr marquee. So now it's off to cleaning the paint gun and we'll probably relax after that. Mom and Pop sent us with some ribs. So we got some ribs for the Hot Logic. One more thing that I want to talk about is the Oops 1200 power station. This is the one that has been powering the paint gun. It was full when I started. It is now down to 34%. I did not have any issues with it. We've been painting for hours and for it to be at 34%, that is wonderful. So Oops Power Station did a good job. I did get overspray on it, but hey, it is what it is. Life is good up here in the mountains. Well, we are sitting here in the tiny house getting ready to eat some dinner. This is gonna be delicious. Mom sent us some ribs.
A half a rack of ribs.
When she knew that we were coming up today, and I don't know how good the camera sees that, let's shed some light on that. Oh my gosh, look at them ribs. So that's what we're having for supper. The dog is behind the camera waiting for us to let her in. She probably wants some ribs too. But these are for us. We worked hard. She just got a bunch of chicken and stuff that we brought for her. So we're having a movie night, charging our phone, charging the camera here as soon as this shot's done. But today was a wonderful day.
It was. We got a lot done despite not getting up here till like 1 o'clock. We got a lot done today.
Such a good feeling. So yes, we're gonna sit here and enjoy some ribs in our tiny house.
Watching TV.
Watching TV. The weather today was really nice. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. It rained very briefly. And then we were able to get our painting in. So very good feeling. But that's it for today. I'm going to call it a wrap. We'll see you guys in the morning. We got some good stuff planned for tomorrow. See you guys.
Good night.
Good night. So, funny thing just happened. We're laying in bed. And you guys aren't going to believe this, but we just saw a bat. He was hanging out in the loft. and he was flying around the tiny house.
We had a bat in the attic.
Yeah, we had a bat in the attic, so Jean had to get up and open the door, and finally, after about 20 circles around the tiny house, he finally went out the door. Pretty funny. That's a pretty color.
I'm loving this color.
That color is a color that Jean picked. She liked that color because it fits the color of the roof. So the southeast and southwest gable trim will match the color of the roof. I'll talk about these trim boards here in a minute, how I got these cuts made and stuff, but wow, that's really pretty paint. Okay, so right now we're taking a look at this trim here, and we're taking a look at this trim here, these red ones. These are the gable trims. So they go up here on the south wall. So to get those angles right and to get them where they meet up with the flyers correctly, I didn't want to use the actual 1x6s because I only had like one shot at that. I brought only the right amount of wood that we need for them, so I couldn't afford to make mistakes. So what I did was I found this little scrap stuff. This is just scrap OSB, and I did one for the southwest corner, and this one is for the southeast corner. Now the thickness of this doesn't matter, this is just scrap wood. But what I was trying to figure out was, how do I get these angles and stuff? So I went up the ladder, and I had this as a square. These weren't cut out yet. And I went up the ladder and I kind of rotated in right next to the flyers, and I marked the tip here, and then I rotated the board down where the ridge cap was, the ridge beam, and I made a mark down here with my pencil. So that gave me my plumb line. Then I rotated it up once I had this line, and I marked with my pencil, kind of a dry fit kind of thing, and that's how I came up with these templates. And I would come down and I would cut it out with the saw, and then I'd go up and dry fit the template and see if it fit. Ran into a couple things, like maybe this notch wasn't wide enough, it didn't fit, it didn't slide up in there correctly, the angle might have been off a little bit or something like that. But once I got these where they were dry fitting perfect, which wasn't really hard to do, then all I needed to do was transfer this template by tracing it on the actual wood. When I was trying to figure out from the second flyer to where the third flyer is, all I did was measured from this point, from the second flyer to the third flyer, and I made a mark on the actual trim board, and then I cut that notch out. So they've dry fit just fine before Jean painted them, so I know they're going to fit like a glove, and they look amazing up there. The color, I don't know what it looks like yet because I was dry fitting them before they were painted, obviously. So that's how we determined how to make the gable trim. And I'm looking at these together, and if you look and I line these flyers up, the flyers are pretty close, but look at the angles are different. I think the ridge board is like leaning a little bit. It was a twisted board, so the ridge board's like kind of leaning. That's why one angle is different than the other. That's why I wanted to make sure that I made templates. It worked out really well. I'm happy. Hello.
Hi. There it is. Hi.
You got fresh air.
That is our very first window.
Window.
I moved the trim.
Good. Yep, we got sawdust coming out. One more to go.
There's the color. Yay!
Window hole. I gotta clean it up a little bit though. It's a little high.
Wow, though, look, it's our downstairs north window. So for right now, we're gonna stop at this north window.
Yep.
And we're not gonna do the top one yet because Skeet needs to be able to put his ladder right there where that window will be to put the trim up that goes on both sides. So that window will come in after the trim is up on the north.